Hello and welcome to Circuit Breaker's interview series. I'm your host, Steve Semler, and today I'm joined by Donald Raleigh, who's the owner of Evolve Systems, a Minnesota company supporting clients with their web presence and marketing strategy. Donald, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to kick us off with kind of a brief background about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the opportunity today to talk with you. I'm a co-owner of Evolve Systems. We started it over 20 years ago. When I say we, it was my wife and I. Marnie is her name, and she serves as the Chief Executive Officer, and I'm the president of the company. Background is Marnie is a sixth generation entrepreneur. I am a second or third generation entrepreneur, depending on if you count farming, which I think is probably one
Counts.
of the hardest entrepreneurial jobs
Counts.
that there is. So a little bit of the background, I joined the Army at 17 years old. I was an infantryman. I served in Washington, D.C. in the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. I had the distinction of being a sentinel at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and performed about 1,100 honors burials for my sisters and brothers at Arlington National Cemetery. After that, I became a military intelligence linguist interrogator, went to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, where I specialized in Russian. And then I was stationed on the East German border in between East Germany, West Germany, and Czechoslovakia, none of which exist anymore. So, we won the Cold War and I lost my job. So right after the first Gulf War, I got out of the military after 8 years active duty and joined an organization called Control Data. And it was me and about 80,000 of my closest friends. And we were doing things like inventing, hyperlinking and messaging systems and financial transaction services. And I was I was assigned to the East Coast out in New York and places like that. And after the tragedy of 9/11, I looked at my wife and my children and we said, I'm just not going to wear the suit anymore. I'm not going to be on an airplane every single week traveling around the country. And so we started Evolve Systems. And that led us to our journey today.
Yeah, well, how did you decide this particular business for Evolve, what to do and how to start that up?
So I was asked to evaluate what the internet services looked like when I was with Control Data. I got picked up by a company that we bought called Creative Internet Solutions, and I became a sales rep on that side and just found a real passion for websites and web development coupled with financial transaction services or payment processing. And lo and behold, they merged together in something that we call e-commerce. And
Mhm.
so, 20 plus years ago, we started building e-commerce sites here in the Twin Cities. And we really have a dual track on our company. Part of our company is focused on the credit card merchant processing, and the other side is on the content management and e-commerce platforms, specifically like WooCommerce and platforms like that. The real spark, though, for me was actually a gentleman by the name of Matt Kramer. And Matt was a vice president at Evolve at Control Data. And he had an idea to go out and do some work in the community, painting benches, cleaning up for some nonprofits. And he and I were outside working on something, and he looked at me and he said, wouldn't it be great if companies did this all the time? And that was, the spark of the idea of what would it be like to not only just be in business, but be of service to your community. So we started Evolve Systems with the idea that we were going to give back to the community. And so since day one, 5% of our corporate profits go directly back into the community, either via cash or in-kind services. And once a quarter, we shut down the company and we go out and do random acts of kindness. We've raked leaves. We've gone to the elderly, like elder homes and helped clean up their yards. We've worked at soup kitchens. Every year in the spring, we clean up a local park. And it's our way of giving back to the community that's given so much to us.
Neat. Um, how has that kind of spread the kind of the benefit for the community that you've
Yeah.
seen in doing that over the years?
Well, look at it this way. If you have a customer, and we invite our customers to go with us, if you have a customer that does business with you, you have, a business relationship. But if you invite that customer to go out and work with you, cleaning up a park or raking leaves or working in a soup kitchen, you have a mission, and you don't just gain a business relationship, you gain a friend. And anybody that's willing to go out and sweat with you is probably going to stick with you. It's the same ethos that we had in the military. And you told me that you served in the military as well. They're For civilians, they're used to the term the band of brothers. I expand that a little bit to be us. And when you start including us into the mix, it's no longer the they, them, it's no longer, the client versus the provider. It becomes, we're all in this together, and what can we do to make not only the business better, but our communities better? So the way that it's manifested that I've seen is it starts to spread that idea that we need to do on our own works of kindness and things that are going to give back to our community, and in a meaningful way, not just perfunctory. I mean, anybody can go out and give $5 to this organization. Our focus has been hyper local. We work only with very, very localized, either nonprofits or needy organizations, and we show up and we do things that other companies may not be able to do, because a lot of the larger organizations focus on the national side of things. We focus very much on the local or hyper local communities.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially for being able to strengthen the community and have the connections where you live and work as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah. Thinking about some of the challenges going from control data to evolve and then building that up. What were some of the hurdles and things you had to overcome in the first few years, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, I call it the avalanche of everything. Everything comes at you very fast, and there's a famous saying that there's things that you know and things that you don't know, and then there's things that you don't know you don't know. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge is you don't think about it, but you need a very good accounting package. You need something that's not just going to keep track of the money, but give you an insight into where the money's going. You can't run your company by looking at your bank account and saying, I've got X number of dollars in the account, therefore I can make these decisions. You have to look, you have to be able to see over the horizon to not only, what do you have in the bank, but what's going to be coming up as obligations? What is it that you're needing to plan for? Because if you don't plan, then the avalanche continues to come at you and you get buried by it. And the other thing that I think at the very beginning that we didn't realize is the sheer number of hats that somebody has to wear in that entrepreneurial role. In fact, I switched hats so many times I lost all my hair. Ta-da.
Yeah, yeah. So the chief everything officer wearing all the hats.
Chief everything officer is a great way to put it.
That's one of the things I see in working with the small business owners all the time is I'm doing everything and I have to keep switching. And then they get to the point they've grown to the point where it doesn't really fit. It doesn't make sense anymore for them to be wearing all the hats, but they need help to figure out, how do I delegate? How do I?
That is exactly the chasm that a lot of entrepreneurs fail to cross. You get to a certain point where you start hiring talent that know things that you don't and are better at things than you are. When entrepreneurs find themselves saying, forget it, I'm not going to delegate because I can do it better, it's a failure of leadership, and it's a failure of understanding that the team is there not just to replace you, but to do things better than you. And they may do things different than you, and you have to be able to accept that, because our job as entrepreneurs and leaders within an organization are to mentor those that are around us. And once that mentorship relationship starts, at some point you have to let the team do things the way that they see it, and the way that they feel is going to be the best because of the knowledge that they have and the experience that they're bringing to the table as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to be able to let go.
Yeah.
There
Delegate
will
and elevate.
there will be mistakes.
Yes.
Made mistakes as the
So
leader and the
I have
owner, and
two things.
we will too.
Yeah, two sayings that I tell people in the company all the time is fail faster.
Yeah.
Just if you're gonna fail, so what? Just, lick your wounds, stand up, go back at it and fail again until, you fail forward. And then the other thing is just be honest. And my saying on that one is, mess up, fess up. If you do something, I want to know how it is that, you messed it up. Not because I want to punish you, but because we institutionally as a company need to learn how. How did it happen? How did it work out? How did we get to that point? Was it a failure of leadership? Was it a failure of mentoring? Was it a failure of imagination? And once we understand that, then we can address the root problem.
Yeah. And that's the difference between accountability is something that you do to others versus accountability is what we feel for our results and to each other.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah. So I've kind of on the topic of technology and keeping up and kind of thinking about systems and things.
Yeah.
I've recently returned to my roots with the business simulations recently, as I kind of mentioned. And I'm keeping up with and learning new things about these AI-enabled simulation tools I can use to help the business owners find profit scenarios and things to kind of tweak and play with the dials and stuff. What are you keeping up with in your business? What's the new thing that you're working to stay adaptable to?
Two things. One of them is, and it's specifically along the lines of AI, it is accessibility. It
Mm,
is making sure that our websites and the programs that we're putting together are ADA compliant. And there's a bunch of different acronyms like WCAG and a few others, but it's making sure that the differently abled community is able to get to the websites that we're building in a way that matches their needs as opposed to the way that we think about how websites should look. We obviously want to pay attention to, the look and feel. It has to be functionally specific to, accomplish what the website is going to do, but it also has to be accessible from the standpoint of what does your website look like if you're blind? What does your
yeah,
website look like if you have, color blindness? Or what if you have ADHD and you're not able to pay attention to the screen because there's flashing things coming at you? So making sure that websites are ADA compliant is really a big deal for us. And that follows into the AI side of things is we're utilizing AI tools to assist with that. Because in the ever-changing nature of a website can be ADA compliant day one, but on day one plus an hour, when somebody's actually added new content to it, it falls out of compliance. And so how do we keep up with that? And AI is really leading the charge on that. We're utilizing one of our partners called Accessibee to be able to help us get that compliance for the websites that we're working on. But as far as AI and keeping ahead of it, it is changing so rapidly that I no longer think about trying to stay ahead of it. I am trying to ride the wave, if I can use a surfing term, instead of letting the wave take me out. Specifically, the AI tools that we're using are disruptors, and but they're disruptors in the same way that when spell check first became available in a word processor, it was revolutionary. It was awesome. I happen to ascribe to the old saying that a person who spells things right every time lacks imagination. I have a difficult time spelling things correctly. Spell check was one of the innovations that helped me to be more of a professional. A lot of the AI tools now are doing the same thing. They're taking away some of the mundane tasks and allowing us to model, to iterate, to try different things very, very fast. And instead of failing faster, it's succeeding faster. So I told everybody in the company when AI really started to become prevalent that AI is not going to replace knowledge workers, but knowledge workers who are using AI will replace workers that aren't. And you're
Mhm.
starting to see that echo in a lot of the different online platforms in different ways. I mean, everybody's got their way of saying it, but the idea is AI is going to revolutionize things that we haven't thought of. I think back to early times, early turn of the century New York City, when Henry Ford, a great entrepreneur, came up with the idea of the Model T being put on the assembly line. The livery unions, the veterinarians, everybody out in New York City started going to the government and saying, we've got to ban these horseless carriages because they're going to put so many of these workers out of work. We're going to have entire generations no longer having a job. But we know from innovation and that entrepreneurial spirit, when the disruptor happens, we know that people are going to step up. And I know that kids that are in college right now are going to have jobs that have not been invented yet.
Yeah.
And we have to continue to pay attention to what's over the horizon, and AI is going to help us do that.
Yeah. One of the things that I've seen kind of as a discussion point back and forth, both sides of it, come up recently is AI is going to make us better critical thinkers
Hmm.
because
I
we
would agree
have
with
to
that.
assess, be literate about what it's giving to us, spot the things that are purely AI created and aren't meeting the match. The flip side of that I've been hearing is and reading is that AI is just going to overwhelm us and we're going to allow it to do things. So there's some argument both sides of what's it going to help or hinder us from doing. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the controls have to be placed on AI. I mean, Isaac Asimov wrote about this, decades ago, before even PCs were a thing, and
Yeah.
talked about the rules for robots. What are the three prime directives? What is it that is going to allow us to live alongside these technologies? And just like we had to adapt new rules for cars on the road, we have to adapt new rules to how AI is going to be working along with us. I'll give you a specific example. A car gets pulled over and the police officer walks up to the window, knocks on it, the window rolls down, and there's no one driving. Who does the ticket go to? We have to start thinking of, as a society, how are we going to deal with working alongside AI? What are we going to do to not only keep ourselves safe, but to keep our community safe as we start exploring what the next revolution is going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Continuous waves. And
Continuous
like you said,
waves.
you're riding it. You're riding them. In the with that kind of in mind, staying and the theme of the Circuit Breakers podcast being breaking out of the circuit of the routine and staying adaptable and innovative. Um, what are the biggest challenges that you have to overcome at this point to stay adaptable to?
Um, well, we've had the challenges of how to work with individuals that are no longer within the organization. I think one of the biggest challenges that we're going to be seeing is, as we have more and more of a remote workforce, we are starting to lose a little bit of that direct mentorship. When we have the ability to go and sit down with one of our team members and spend that critical 2 minutes of saying, here's what happened, here's what I saw, let's get ready for this next phone call, this next meeting, this whatever's coming up next, and providing that direct one-on-one relationship mentoring, where it's not necessarily just about course correction, it's about how do we frame things that we're going to be going into. One of the things that I know we have got the ability to do now is be on a Zoom call like we are right now. Very convenient. However, we're starting to schedule these Zoom calls for blocks of 15 minutes. And that 15-minute creep could have been taken care of in a 1-minute conversation if I walked up to your desk. And so even though we're saving the drive time and we're saving a lot of the time of efficiency by being able to quickly get on to a call. I'm finding that once we're on the call, we spend a lot of time because we don't want to waste the opportunity. And I don't find it as efficient as being able to walk up to someone, ask them how their day is going, and then go and get the cup of coffee. It's the water cooler talk that I think is probably the thing that we're missing the most. And what I worry about is the next generation of middle managers not having the direct people skills that they're going to be able to apply as they move up from being a line worker, somebody who is a knowledge worker, producing directly for the client, to moving into that middle management side, and then eventually moving up into the executive roles that we are going to need. Because I'm of a certain age that I realize I'm not going to be at the company for the rest of everyone else's life. I'm probably going to be here for the rest of my life, but not theirs. And so how do I prepare my team to make sure that the transition is not only going to be as smooth as we can make it, but that knowledge transfer happens. And a lot of that knowledge comes from, just being around each other and being able to talk in those, very quick, very eloquent, but very needed moments.
Yeah, that's actually something I've been working with over the past 4 or 5 years, especially since the pandemic hit, from the leadership and the training and interpersonal skills sorts of things going on, to help build up people's skills so that they can work through those challenges in the remote environment. And I've, specifically having people look at and pay attention to, how can you do this? How can you do this, just as you're saying, efficiently with the tools that you've got available to you, so that you're not just tasky. You're not just giving tasks. You're not just giving directions. You're not just listening to information, but you are establishing and reinforcing the connection
Right.
with, from a leadership standpoint, especially your employees. How can I know what you need to be successful? How can I give you what you need to be successful? How can I support you, especially through the learning moments and the prep moments, kind of like you were talking about before?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you offer to folks who are just starting out as entrepreneurs, in the tech sector or in general, or
Yeah.
facing challenges in business?
Number one piece of advice: get a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, find one. If you can't find one, reach out to anybody in your circle of influence and ask the question directly. And be specific. What kind of mentorship are you looking for? Are you looking for time management? Are you looking for overall business acumen? Do you know enough about banking? Do you know enough about, the legal system? Do you know all these things? And the answer is probably going to be no. And so surround yourself with people that know how to do the things that you're looking to do. But the key to all of that is getting a mentor that you can bounce things off of.
Mhm.
One of the problems that you have as an entrepreneur is you encounter moments where you have nobody else in the company to talk to, because it will come across as either gossip or it will come across as weakness. And you don't want that to be the case. So you have to have somebody that you can ask questions of in a very nurturing environment, is a good way to put it, but also in a safe environment, from the standpoint of, I may sound like an idiot asking this question, but how do I deal with X, Y, or Z? And if you have a good mentor, they're either going to have the business acumen based off of years of experience that they can answer it, or they can be honest and say, boy, I don't know, but I've got somebody in my network. And that's how you start branching out from your mentor, to surround yourself with people that are going to be supportive of you. Kind of part two of that is get into a networking group, not like a networking group to pass leads, but a group of like-minded individuals that are at your level, that are probably going through the same things that you're going through.
Yeah. That kind of masterminds
Yeah,
group is
masterminds.
hugely beneficial to folks. And just kind of on the self-serving plug side of things, that's one of the things that I both appreciate about when I'm doing the business or leadership coaching, is that I can, be that person to bounce ideas off, but also that I can help connect them with the experts.
You bet.
Okay, well, especially for folks watching, the podcast here, thank you so much for your time today, Donald. Excellent, awesome tips and advice here, especially. So for folks watching, when you're coming into the challenges of your own business, consider these tips, consider these pieces that that Donald has given to us here. Reach out to me as you need to for coaching, training support. As always, I'm Steve Semler at FocalPoint Business Coaching and LearningSim, helping techies be great leaders. Look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Thanks.